So you're still thinking.
Basically every morning I start with lime salt water with filtered water. I'll have my coffee before you speak. I've also been having this organic chlorella, just a greens drink that I have in the morning. Basically I just start my mornings with heaps of liquid. Good morning guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I always do that. I'm like ready to party when you guys come to my channel, except that I don't party. I've done my morning routine, which consists of meditation, my salt and lime water, my coffee, my greens, showered and made myself look presentable for the camera, and I'm just gonna have some breakfast. So I like to fast in the mornings and then have my breakfast at like 10, 10:30, 11, just because I find operate better when I have my breakfast later in the day, especially if I am on lower calories and I'm finding I'm getting hungry during the day. I'm just going to make a bowl of oats and some egg whites. Always make sure I get protein in every single meal. So if I'm having oats, I'll use protein powder in it or have egg whites as an addition. It's like a 2-course meal.
Of me, just like I know you should. I cannot give you everything. You know I wish I could. I'm so high at the
I'm going to be talking about lifestyle factors, which kind of sound boring but are actually so important when it comes to any kind of health goal really. So yeah, fat loss, it's really important, but if you're wanting to like build muscle, be healthy, function like a normal human, these lifestyle factors are seriously important. I am going to be referring to them in relation to fat loss just because it's part of the mini cut mini series I've been doing for you guys. So I'm going to talk today about stress, sleep, NEAT, movement, and diet adherence. How cozy does my little corner look? I love filming at my sister's house. Can I stay? I'm actually going home tomorrow, back to Sydney. Yep, loving my little sister's drinking stand thing. This is gonna be really hot. No, can't do it. When it comes to fat loss, and I'm focusing on fat loss at the moment because I'm doing this mini cut and I've been doing this mini cut series, but when it comes to fat loss, people focus on their nutrition and their training. Great. Two incredibly important things to look at, address, and focus on when your goal is fat loss and muscle building. But there's a lot more to the complete picture of health and fat loss. So lifestyle factors that people mightn't realize are so important and can actually impact your rate of fat loss and ability to lose fat are stress, sleep, diet adherence, and your NEAT or your incidental activity. I'm going to talk about these 4 things today and show you guys how you can enhance your fat loss results by making really small, easy changes to your everyday life. So I'm all about the little atomic habits at the moment that create big change overall. First one I'm going to talk about is diet adherence. So this is basically the most important thing when it comes to any form of diet. It might be a diet for fat loss, it might be a diet for building muscle. Diet is just a loose term that I like to use for when you are like tracking your food and being considerate of what you are putting in your mouth in relation to your goals. So when you're doing any diet, if it's something that you cannot adhere to or follow or enjoy, then you're kind of screwed. From personal experience, discipline and kind of self-restraint will only get you so far when it comes to sticking to something long-term, which pretty much any goal that you have needs to be a longer-term game plan. If you're unable to stick to it long-term, then you're really going to struggle after you come out of the diet, or you're really going to struggle to actually achieve your goal. It's going to be really frustrating because you haven't been able to stick to it. One thing I have learned for myself personally, when it comes to the split of my macronutrients, I really need to have sufficient fats in order to feel food satisfaction and enjoyment. So for me, if my fats are below like 60 grams, I find it really difficult to make meals that have a lot of flavor, because I love getting flavor from butters and oils and nuts and nut butters. Like, I also really like proteins that have a bit higher fat content, so like salmon, beef minces and chicken breast. So if I'm making a meal that is like really high in carbs, awesome, I love carbs, but if I have low fats and I can't add any of those things to it, I'm not going to enjoy my food. If I'm not enjoying my food, I'm gonna want to go off plan. I'm gonna be like, why am I eating this food anyway? And again, that's why people like flexible dieting. Diet adherence is like crucial, and it's something that you can learn as you go. Like, you'll learn what macronutrients you respond to best, what foods you really like in your diet. Another thing to consider with it is the kind of personality you have. I find for myself, I like variety, and not just variety in my foods. Like, I can pretty easily eat the same food every day. You guys will know that if you see my egg whites that I have pretty much for every breakfast every day. But when it comes to like changing my calories and my macros, I like to have kind of higher days and lower days. So days where I'm able to eat more carbohydrates versus days where I'll have less carbs and more fats. To me, that keeps it interesting. It keeps variety in it. It means I can fit certain things into my food for the day that I might want to fit in every day. For example, with the higher carbs, I'll be able to fit chocolate in if I feel like eating chocolate. If you allow for these kinds of things in your diet, things that you love and couldn't eliminate because you love them so much, you might go off plan and eat them and then kind of self-sabotage and ruin your diet, then incorporating them in that way is really good. Or you might be someone that is a creature of habit. You can hit the same calories, same macros, same foods every day, and that works for you, then that's great. Whatever it is that ensures you can adhere to your diet and stick to it is the best plan. Now, obviously, if your goal is fat loss, that needs to be in a deficit. Okay, so stress. A lot of people kind of underestimate the amount of stress that they are under in any given situation. We kind of look at stress and we think, okay, I'm feeling really stressed because I've got these deadlines at work. I'm feeling really stressed because I have to public speak. I'm feeling really stressed because I'm having relationship drama, I fight with someone. That kind of stuff is obviously very stressful. What we actually don't realize is the tiniest thing can create a stress response in our body. So I'm talking about things like change in temperature, allergies, intolerances, getting sick, inflammation. We then have physical stress, physiological stress, and emotional stress. So all of these factors contribute to the response that our body is having to these stresses. So our autonomic nervous system regulates our body and is broken down into two states. You've got your parasympathetic state and your sympathetic state. Your parasympathetic state is known as your rest, digest, and recovery state, and then our sympathetic state is known as our fight or flight response state. We do need stress in our life. Without stress, there are no adaptations to our body, which we need when it comes to building muscle and losing fat. So whilst we do need like a level of stress in our lives, where it becomes an issue is when we have too much of it and it's too constant. So there is a lot of constant stress in our life. You might have something like your phone constantly going off is going to create that response that happens when we're stressed, the release of cortisol into our bloodstream. And then instead of us actually using that stress like we did back in the day when we were being chased by life-threatening animals, when, you know, back in the day, back in the Paleolithic days, when we were being chased by some kind of animal and we had to fight or flight to survive. Nowadays, like modern kind of stresses are a lot different to those back in the day. So we don't need to use our stress hormone to like run or fight. So we've got all of this kind of cortisol and adrenaline running around our system. So that compounds and creates really negative effects on our body and our ability to lose fat and build muscle. How too much stress affects our ability to lose fat and build muscle. So the overproduction and too much constant cortisol in our bloodstream can lead to lowered immunity, excess inflammation, downregulation of gut health, decreased testosterone, increased estrogen, decreased brain function, and the reduction of key neurotransmitters. So the reduction of GABA, which is our hormone that makes us feel calm, the reduction of dopamine, which is our motivation and our drive, and the reduction of serotonin, which is our feel-good hormone. And our serotonin is actually the precursor to a hormone called melatonin, which is what helps us get to sleep. So now we're in a state where we're not motivated, we have no drive, we're not calm, we're not feeling happy because our serotonin's decreased, and our sleep is shithouse because our melatonin has decreased. So these states make for an incredibly difficult headspace or physiological space or physical space even to lose fat. When our sleep is impaired, our ghrelin is increased, which is the hormone that tells us when we're hungry, and our leptin decreases, which is the hormone that keeps us satiated and satisfied with the food that we're eating. It also, if our leptin is lowered, we're going to have cravings, we're going to be wanting to have sweets and everything. So decreased leptin, increased ghrelin, feeling sad, shit sleep. It's just a whole mess for wanting to lose fat. It does not work. It's just going to make it incredibly hard to stick to any diet. And if we're not sticking to our diet, we're not going to be reaching our goals. We're going to be kicked out of the deficit. We're going to be feeling even shitter. So stress plays such a huge role in our ability to lose fat. Not only does it bring down these neurotransmitters, it also creates a resistance to the catecholamines in our body, so our epinephrine and norepinephrine. These guys are required to break down our fat cells to pull the free fatty acids out of the fat cells, mobilize them to the mitochondria where they are used as energy, aka burning fat. Now we have an impaired ability to burn fat. In order to mitigate the effects of stress and put us in the best optimal position for fat loss, we really need to work on spending more time in the parasympathetic state. So there are a lot of protocols that you can do to try and put yourself into this state and calm yourself down. My favorite protocols that I like to personally use are meditation. So I've been using an app called Waking Up by Sam Harris. It's like a meditation course, and I do that every single morning without fail. That's like my morning routine to set me up for like a really calm, relaxing and aware day. Yoga and stretching, reading a book, calling a friend, spending time with loved ones, playing with pets. I wish I had a doggo to play with when I was stressed. Seriously. Listening to music or podcasts, running a bath, like an Epsom salt bath, going for a walk, or journaling. They're just all things that I like to do myself. I also really like to go to the beach, put my feet in the sand, and that just instantly calms me, like being around water. Sleep. I kind of touched on sleep with the hormones when I was talking about stress, but I'm going to talk more about sleep now. So obviously we need sleep to rest and recover, and it's actually when we're most anabolic and we create the most regeneration of our muscle tissue. As I said previously, a bad sleep can increase your cortisol, decrease your leptin, and increase your ghrelin hormones, which will lead us to being more likely to overeat, kicking us out of any deficit that we are in for our fat loss goal. Also temporarily lead to issues with insulin, making us more insulin resistant, which can stop our bodies from utilizing carbs as effectively. Now, this isn't an issue if we're in a deficit, but if we're experiencing all the above things, like our hunger levels are increased, our satiety is decreased, we're more likely to overeat and go over our calories and then knock us out of our deficit. So this is when insulin can become an issue. So really important things when it comes to sleep. It's not just about having your 8 hours sleep. That's awesome if you can get that. I always try to aim for at least 8 hours of sleep. The other factors you really need to consider is how long it takes you to fall asleep when you get to bed, the quality of that sleep once you are asleep. Are you waking up? Are you restless? Are you having nightmares? Are you getting up to go to the bathroom? And then in the morning, do you wake up feeling refreshed and energized, or is it like a 5 alarm or 2 alarm even to wake you up in the morning? What we want in the morning is our cortisol to naturally wake us up, and it naturally spikes in the morning, kind of mid-morning it'll spike, and then slowly decrease and taper down so that we're going to be able to get to sleep at night. So a few goals that you might like to set for your sleep is going to sleep before, say, 11 p.m. In traditional Chinese medicine, they say that the window from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. the best repair and physical adaptation window. So being asleep in those hours is quite important. So tips for getting a better sleep: set yourself up a bedtime routine so it signals your body to be aware, or like to know when you're actually winding down and getting ready for bed. So you could do a series of little things like having a bath or a hot shower, getting into bed 30 minutes before you actually fall asleep to calm yourself down. Other things that really impact your ability to fall asleep include light. So blue light, things that we get from TVs, laptops, phones, and that's why it's best to have your room as dark as possible. It will allow for better secretion of melatonin, which is the hormone that gets us to fall asleep. With the exposure to electronic devices and blue lights, it actually sends a signal for our bodies to produce more melatonin because our brains think that it's daytime. So with the exposure to blue lights and any kind of bright light, our body thinks it's daytime and decreases the amount of melatonin that we produce so that we can stay awake for the day. Having dark rooms and using apps like Flux for your laptop, nighttime light on your iPhone, and you can also get like goggles that you can put on that block out blue lights. And then obviously like trying to be off your phone and off working and off any kind of TV around 2 hours before you go to sleep is going to be the most beneficial for that production of melatonin. A well-ventilated room is going to help with oxygen, which is also going to help with the secretion of more melatonin to help us fall asleep better. And then you can use things like chamomile, lavender, like aromatherapy, or even teas, because that's going to help with our GABA hormone, which is going to help us relax and get ready to go into that sleepy state. I would also avoid any stimulants from 3 p.m. onwards, so no coffees or pre-workouts or anything, because they're going to have a carryover effect to when we're wanting to get to sleep. Also avoid consuming food around 2 hours before we go to sleep, because we don't want our bodies to be focusing on digesting the food. We want our body to be focusing on sleeping, resting, recovering. And if you do have trouble getting to sleep at night, trying to backload your carbs actually really helps. All right, the last thing I'm going to talk about is your NEAT, your non-exercise activity thermogenesis, which is basically just your incidental movement. Things like I'm doing now. I'm very like talking with my hands and moving, steps that you get in a day, fidgeting, any kind of movement that is actually going to increase your deficit. So there have been studies that have shown anyone that's gotten below 7,300 steps actually increases their ghrelin. So their hunger hormone, which increases the chance of overeating, which increases the chance of kicking you out of your deficit. So I always tell my clients, my girls, a minimum of 10,000 steps a day is a non-negotiable. So I have my Fitbit watch and I always try to get 10,000 steps. And if I don't, I will go for a walk. Also, the more we spend dieting, the smarter our bodies get at conserving energy. So the body will start to conserve energy by reducing the amount of movement. I know in my competition prep towards the end there, where I was in like a really big deficit, I was really low energy, I was training really hard, I really reduced my movement. Like I found it, I was not doing this as much. I wasn't as animated when I was talking or as fidgety. Like I am quite a fidgety person. That all decreased because my body was trying to conserve the energy to prevent me from going into like starvation mode. But it's really important to set yourself a step goal so that you stay moving and stay motivated to get that movement in. Obviously, if you're doing like a longer kind of cutting phase, it's really good to progress your steps. So in the first phase, you might do 10,000, then 12,000, then 14,000 steps, and just gradually increase that. So as your energy in your body trying to conserve energy increases, you also increase your steps so you're not losing out on your deficit by reducing your movements. Just little things like that can really impact the results that you're going for with your fat loss. I hope you guys enjoyed the video today. As you know, any comments or questions, leave them down below. Give me a like and subscribe to my channel if you're liking what you are seeing. Thanks guys, hope you enjoyed. Have a great day. Mwah.
Oh man, I'm so caught up in it. Yeah, we're just young, dumb and broke, but we still got love.